Hey everyone, I'm Trevor, and today we're at Disneyland to share with you my ultimate ride guide for 2025. I am so excited about this one, so let's get going. We're gonna start right here on Main Street, USA this year, with the Disneyland Railroad, which you can see from the entrance gates. The railroad goes on a loop around the whole park called the Grand Circle Tour of Disneyland. There are 4 total stations where you can hop on or off: Main Street, New Orleans Square, Toontown, and Tomorrowland. The most scenic and longest stretch of the railroad is from New Orleans Square to Toontown. New Orleans Square is also my preferred boarding station. The best stretch of the railroad starts in Tomorrowland. From this station, you'll head inside and be treated with dioramas of the Grand Canyon as well as the primeval world. The dinosaur scenes are so well done and easily one of my favorite parts in all of Disneyland. This year, I'm including all attractions as well, which brings us to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. This attraction has been closed since April of 2024 and will remain so for the bulk of early 2025. In fact, when it does reopen, it won't be as Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, but instead as Walt Disney A Magical Life on May 16, 2025 with the start of the Disneyland 70th Anniversary celebrations. That doesn't mean that Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is gone forever, however, as Disneyland has already stated that once Walt Disney A Magical Life has had its initial run, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln will return in rotation, as the 2 shows are each on one half of a giant turntable. When we'll see this show return, however, is anyone's guess at this moment. And before we move on, I'd be remiss if I didn't add the Main Street vehicles to this list. Hop aboard and ride them down Main Street where they'll drop you off in front of the castle. You can also hop on at the castle for a ride back down Main Street. There are several different types of vehicles, including a double-decker bus. From the hub, we're going to start off in Adventureland. And before we get too far, we're immediately going to come across Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Located right in front of the Tiki Room is the Tiki Juice Bar, where you can order a Dole Whip to take inside and eat while you watch the show. For more information on the food and snacks available at Disneyland, be sure to check out my food guide when you're done with this video. Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room is a Disneyland must-see attraction and was the first show to use audio animatronics to tell a story. This classic has been running since 1963 and features catchy music and tons of visual effects. As we move deeper into Adventureland, we come across Jungle Cruise, one of my favorite attractions in the park. This is a slow-moving, high-capacity boat ride where the standby wait typically maxes out around 30 minutes. Each boat has a skipper that narrates your tour the entire 7 minutes of the ride with dry humor and cleverly worded puns. There is no height requirement for this ride, meaning that anyone can ride it, even babies. Each ride without a height requirement will also be safe for pregnant women. My favorite part of Jungle Cruise by far is...
It is time for the 3, 2, 1...
Backside of water! 028! Right next door is Indiana Jones Adventure Temple of the Forbidden Eye. This is going to be our first ride on the list that features a Lightning Lane, which is a paid feature that is used by scanning your ticket here. There are 3 Lightning Lane services you can purchase: Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, Lightning Lane Single Pass, and Lightning Lane Premier Pass. We're not going to deep dive into this too much here in this video, but you can keep an eye out on the channel for an updated 2025 Lightning Lane tips video. Essentially, Lightning Lane allows you to pay to skip a large portion of the line, thereby allowing you to get more done in a day. Indiana Jones Adventure puts you in an all-terrain vehicle that's powered by hydraulics to simulate driving through the rough and uneven ground of an ancient, decrepit temple. It's bumpy and features sharp turns and jerky movements, giving this attraction a height requirement of 46 inches. Before we leave Adventureland behind, we come across the Adventureland Treehouse. This newly redesigned attraction opened in November of 2023 after removing the Tarzan theme and returning it to the Swiss Family Robinson's treehouse that it was when it first opened in 1962. The Adventureland Treehouse is an excellent attraction for when the rest of the park is slam-packed or you're looking for something to do that's not a ride at Disneyland. Unfortunately, there is no handicap-accessible way to see this attraction. If you are enjoying this video and finding it helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. And if you want to save money on your next Disneyland vacation, call my friends at Getaway today and tell them that SoCal Disney Dad sent you. Or click the link down in the description and use my coupon code to save on their already discounted packages. New Orleans Square is next, and our first ride is Pirates of the Caribbean. This is another classic Disney attraction that first opened in 1967. Pirates of the Caribbean is such a popular ride that when Magic Kingdom was built in Orlando and the park did not have pirates, guests were outraged and Disney rushed to add it. This is why, even though they have more space, our version of Pirates of the Caribbean features not one, but 2 drops and is a full 6 minutes longer. Despite the drops, Pirates of the Caribbean features no height requirement and is the perfect attraction for the whole family to get off their feet and out of the sun. This attraction also has a lightning lane, but it was originally supposed to be temporary while Haunted Mansion was under refurbishment, so I don't know how much longer that will remain now that the ride is open. Speaking of Haunted Mansion, that's our next Disneyland ride. Haunted Mansion features an Omni-Mover ride system, which just means the ride keeps moving even as you board. This makes sure the line moves quickly, and so even if it has a long line, it never really feels all that bad. Haunted Mansion closes every year for 2 weeks before the Halloween season to switch over to Haunted Mansion Holiday, which is a Nightmare Before Christmas overlay, and closes for 2 more weeks after Christmas to return to its classic version. The holiday version has all the same classic scenes as the regular Haunted Mansion, but with different props and appearances. There is no height requirement for this attraction. Haunted Mansion also features a lightning lane, and from this point forward will indicate lightning lane attractions only by the Lightning Lane Multipass logo on your screen. Now it's time to move over into the newly renamed Bayou Country, and first is Disneyland's newest ride, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which of course is a retheme from the old Splash Mountain. It features the same log flume ride system with the same configuration of seats. Walt Disney World veterans will want to note that our logs are single file and not side by side. Tiana's Bayou Adventure opened to the public at Disneyland in November of 2024. It features 3 drops, and each one of them is likely to get you wet. But the worst of these is the second drop inside the heart of the attraction. If you're sitting in the front row, you will get soaked to the core, so bring a change of clothes. Even a poncho will do little to protect you. However, the thing you need to be aware of is the final 50-foot drop, especially considering this attraction has no seatbelts. I won't spoil any more of the ride in case you're wanting to experience it for yourself. Tiana's Bayou Adventure has a 40-inch height requirement, and while it does not currently have a single rider line, there's space for it at the ride entrance, so it could appear at some point throughout the year. There's one more ride in Bayou Country, and it's the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. This ride is unique and has a little-known secret pass called the Roo Pass. To obtain one, speak to the cast member at the ride entrance. What is the Roo Pass? It functions just like single rider, except this one allows up to 3 people to ride together. As you see, there are 3 rows of seats, and if a family of 4 takes the first 2 rows, oftentimes the back row remains empty. If you have 4 people in your family, you'll need 2 Roo Passes and your party will be split, but it's often faster than waiting standby. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh has no height requirement and is the perfect ride for families with little kids as it features whimsical and fun scenes, catchy music, and bright colors. From here, we'll make our way into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The premier attraction here is Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. This is the most immersive queue and ride in the whole park. It features 3 pre-shows that make the long wait time a much more engaging experience, keeping you entertained even before the ride begins. Rise of the Resistance features a 40-inch height requirement and is the only Lightning Lane attraction not available with Multipass. Instead, it's sold a la carte via Lightning Lane Single Pass, which we'll explain in another video. I do want to warn you, there is a small drop that provides that Tower of Terror weightlessness feeling, but it's only for a brief moment. The only other ride in Galaxy's Edge is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. The theming here is just as good as Rise of the Resistance and is a Star Wars fanatic's dream come true. You'll step inside the cockpit of the Falcon as either a pilot, gunner, or engineer. Pilots steer the ship, gunners shoot at enemy fighters, and engineers repair the ship when it's damaged. You'll get a group score based on how well you performed with deductions for damages and the like. This attraction has a 38-inch height requirement. Smuggler's Run is one of 3 rides at Disneyland with a single rider line, though no one really uses it, so it almost guarantees a walk-on, but you'll probably be stuck as an engineer. Next up is Frontierland, and the first ride you'll come across is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is the star attraction of the area. Big Thunder has a 40-inch height requirement, and while my youngest was scared of it at first, it's now one of his favorite rides. He even does it hands in the air. There are 3 lift hills, but none of the drops are too extreme, making it perfect for younger kids looking to try their first big coaster. For an added bit of thrill, sit in the back row and do the goat trick. You can experience an exhilarating bit of vertigo if you keep your eye on the goat as you go around the corner. This next ride is actually 2-in-1. The ship docked right now is the Mark Twain Riverboat. Hop aboard and go on a peaceful 12-minute long journey around the rivers of America. Along the way, the narrator will share educational information about what you're seeing. The other ship that docks here is the sailing ship Columbia. And while it does mostly the same thing, it is a completely different experience. On the Columbia, you can go below deck and look through a mini museum of sorts. Back up top, the narration is different from the Mark Twain and features my favorite part, the firing of a cannon.
Bowman, man the starboard forecastle cannon and prepare to fire a warning shot. Fire one!
You don't want to miss this. The Rivers of America is home to several more attractions as well, including the Pirate's Lair on Tom Sawyer Island. This isn't a ride, but it is absolutely worth going to check out, especially if you have little kids. To get over to Tom Sawyer Island, you need to take a raft. These guys are slow, and so coming and going can be a bit of a pain. But once you get over there, the entire island is like a giant playground. There are caves to explore, treasures to discover, forts to climb, bridges to navigate, and more. Perhaps the funnest of these is the Barrel Bridge, which is actually a lot harder than it looks. While the entrance to our next ride, Davy Crockett's Explorer Canoes, is located in Bayou Country, this ride is technically part of Frontierland. A lot of people don't like this ride because it requires you to actually row your own canoe, so there's manual labor involved. But how often can you say you rowed a canoe in a theme park? There's no height requirement for this one as the water's not really all that deep, but you still might hesitate taking a baby or toddler on it. They do have life jackets available for children and adults alike, however. The tour guide makes this experience a blast, injecting a lot of Jungle Cruise style humor into the mix. I think everyone should do this at least once. Before we go into Fantasyland proper, I want to point out this little theater to the left of the castle off the hub. It's called the Royal Theater. Here, you'll find two shows, Tangled and Beauty and the Beast. This is a fun and humorous show for all ages with great music and a lot of laughs. There's rugs up front for the kids to sit and benches for the adults in the back. I've seen both shows and they are top notch, a must do at Disneyland if you love either movie. If you step through the castle and turn off to your left, you'll come to the Sleeping Beauty Castle walkthrough experience. This unique attraction takes you inside the castle and tells you the story of Sleeping Beauty through storybooks and dioramas. It's a hidden gem of an attraction that not a lot of people know about. Be aware it does require the ability to climb stairs. However, there is a handicap accessible viewing area off to the left as you head back towards the hub. It has a bench inside and a screen playing the walkthrough. The first ride on our left is Snow White's Enchanted Wish. We're gonna push through these next couple of rides rather quickly, and I just want to say that though they're older, classic attractions with no height requirement, many of them feature dark, scary, or loud elements that may not be suitable for all children. The ride begins in Snow White's house and takes you through a very abbreviated recounting of the movie. The ride has been updated in recent years and has removed a lot of the scarier elements from when it used to be Snow White's Scary Adventure. Right across the path from Snow White is Peter Pan's Flight. This is by far Fantasyland's most popular attraction, and it almost always has a long line. You'll hop aboard your own flying ship and sail high above London before making your way to Neverland, where you'll join Peter Pan as he faces off against Captain Hook. It's a fun attraction, and one many would say is an absolute must for any Disneyland vacation. If we keep moving along, we'll come across Pinocchio's Daring Journey, located right next to Snow White. All of these rides feature the same sort of ride system. Small vehicles, tight tracks, and dark scenes. This one is of course Pinocchio themed and is what I would say is the least child-friendly of the lot. But that doesn't mean that kids shouldn't ride it, just be aware it has a darker tone. And then directly opposite that, next to Peter Pan, is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. This dark ride moves more rapidly and turns quite a bit more frequently than any of the others. There's also loud noises and a lot of flashes that may not be appropriate for children with sensory issues. In the center of this whole area is King Arthur Carousel. This is a classic opening day attraction from all the way back in 1955 that is actually quite a bit older than the park, having first opened at Sunnyside Beach Park in Toronto back in 1922. One fun aspect of this ride is that Mary Poppins and Bert will often ride along with guests. They'll be joined by the Pearly Band that will play live music instead of the ride's usual audio recording. Keep an eye out for Jingles. This horse is special and was dedicated to Julie Andrews in 2008 for the 50th anniversary of Mary Poppins. It's also the horse featured in the movie Saving Mr. Banks. Next, we'll move over to Casey Jr. Circus Train. This is a fun little train ride that takes you around the same area as the Storybook Land canal boats, which we'll get to in a moment. There's not a whole lot to say about this ride, other than it too features no height requirement and has a lot of really great views of Disneyland. Right next to Casey Jr. is Dumbo the Flying Elephant, another great attraction for families of all ages. Hop aboard and let Dumbo take you soaring high into the air. You get to control the height of the vehicle, so if you want to, you could stay down at ground level the whole ride. That's completely up to you. Then there's Storybook Land canal boats, which we mentioned earlier. You'll hop on board a boat with a personal tour guide who will transport you to Storybook Land, where you'll witness many dioramas from your favorite Disney movies, like Central Park and Peter Pan, Agrabah and Aladdin, Prince Eric's castle from The Little Mermaid, and more. If you have little kids, request to sit up front and they can be whale watchers, sitting on top of the front portion of the boat. It's a fun little treat for kids. Now it's time for one of my least favorite rides, Mad Tea Party, or the Spinning Teacups if you'd prefer to call them that. This is exactly what it looks like, nausea-inducing mayhem. My kids really love it though. Riding at night provides an extra fun vibe. Similar to King Arthur Carousel, occasionally, Alice and the Mad Hatter will ride with guests on this attraction for a super awesome experience. Right next to that is Alice in Wonderland. Hop aboard your caterpillar and go down, down, down the rabbit hole with Alice. You'll see your favorite characters like the White Rabbit, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Blue Caterpillar, the Cheshire Cat, and more. Just don't upset the Queen of Hearts. This attraction is unique in that it has an outside portion that's up on the roof with some higher up views of Disneyland. We leave these smaller rides behind for a brief moment for Matterhorn bobsleds. This ride does have a single rider line, but if you see it like this, it's definitely not worth it and the standby is probably quicker. Single rider is the better bet most of the time though. Seating here is single file, which contributes to this ride's 42-inch height requirement in comparison to the other coasters around Disneyland. Beware, this ride is old and quite jerky. I affectionately call it the Backbreaker, and it's the world's first tubular steel roller coaster. There are a few jump scares with the Yeti, so keep that in mind for sensitive children. Towards the end, the ride has a splashdown, and while it's unusual, I have gotten pretty wet from this before. At the far north end of Fantasyland is It's a Small World, another 13-minute gentle boat ride. This one is exceptionally good for taking a nap, as the repetitive lighter music is the perfect volume for lulling you to sleep. This is yet another classic Disneyland ride that first debuted at the New York World's Fair in 1964 before making its way to Disneyland. Similar to Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World also has a holiday overlay that has predictable closures. Before and after Christmas, It's a Small World closes for 2 weeks on each end to make this change. For the beginning of 2025, that closure has been extended to approximately 2 months, as it makes additional updates for the 70th anniversary. Be aware that many rides will find themselves on the refurb calendar prior to May 16, 2025 for similar maintenance needs ahead of the 70th. That finishes up Fantasyland and takes us to Mickey's Toontown. If we head immediately to the right, we'll come to Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. This is another ride I strongly dislike due to the spinning element. However, if you prefer to avoid that, simply turn the wheel the opposite direction as to whichever way the ride is trying to take you, and it will mostly keep you straight. This ride has darker themes and feels a bit out of place in Disneyland, especially in very kid-centric Toontown due to the Roger Rabbit character. I wish they'd remove it and replace it with something else, though I know there'll be people out there who are angry with me for saying that. Right next to that is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which first opened in Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando, replacing the Great Movie Ride before making its way to California when Toontown underwent a huge remodel in 2022. The queue is immersive and there's a lot to look at, so you're not bored even while you're waiting in the oftentimes 40+ minute long line. You'll hop aboard Goofy's train for a ride around Runamuck Park, but things quickly take a wrong turn when Mickey hits the track switch, disconnecting you from an oblivious Goofy. What follows is scene after scene of Mickey and Minnie trying to save you, and it's an absolute blast. There's no height requirement for this ride, making it fun for the whole family. The last ride in Toontown is called Chip 'n Dale's Gadget Coaster, which was rethemed from Gadget's Go Coaster. This is the smallest roller coaster at Disneyland with a height requirement of 35 inches and is a perfect entry-level coaster for your budding enthusiast. It's pretty short. In fact, you might get to see the whole ride while I'm talking from start to finish. They only have one train, so loading and unloading is slow. Because of this, anything over about 30 minutes just feels incredibly long as the line barely moves. This ride is best enjoyed early in the morning to avoid long waits. And finally, we have Tomorrowland, which requires us to venture all the way back down past the Matterhorn. The first ride you'll come across is Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage. This ride is among one of guests' least favorite rides in the park. If you see it at 10 minutes, give it a go, but I wouldn't wait much longer than 30 for it. Why don't people like it? Well, you have to go down into a cramped submarine for starters, and there's very little airflow in here, so all that sweaty BO just kinda hangs in the air. The ride itself is enjoyable enough and lasts around 13 minutes. Once again, there's no height requirement here, but if you're even the least bit claustrophobic, I'd recommend avoiding this one. Right next to that is the Disneyland monorail. This is the only station for the monorail inside the park. The monorail is mostly used as a transportation service to Downtown Disney, but you can treat it as a ride as well. Once you reach Downtown Disney, you can choose to stay on or return to the park, but keep in mind you will be required to disembark in Tomorrowland. For this reason, only guests with active Disneyland park tickets can ride the monorail. For a special experience, ask if you can ride in the nose cone. They might say no, but if they're allowing it, it's first come, first served. Moving along, we have Autopia. This is a fun one and a favorite of my kids. Guests must be 32 inches to ride and 54 inches to ride alone. My oldest is over 54 inches and he still has a hard time reaching the pedals and prefers to ride with us. You're on a track, so there's not a whole lot that can go wrong, so sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. People's biggest complaints with this ride are the loud and stinky gas-powered engines, but Disney has publicly announced that they'll be moving to electric by the end of 2026. Then we have Space Mountain, my second favorite ride in the park aside from Rise of the Resistance. Space Mountain is a thrilling, high-speed, turbulent roller coaster type ride in the dark that includes sharp turns, sudden drops, and stops. Since it is in the dark, there's not a whole lot to show you, but it's no more intense than Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And while you might be tempted to think that the darkness element would add a level of fear, my youngest was actually more afraid of Big Thunder for about a year and has always enjoyed Space Mountain. The best part is that every year for Season of the Force, Space Mountain is rethemed as Hyperspace Mountain. This Star Wars overlay levels up the ride experience a ton in my opinion, and I'd be happy if they kept the overlay permanently. But I guess it is better as a special occasion. Space Mountain has a height requirement of 40 inches. This is lower than Disney World's 44 inches thanks to our side-by-side seating. We have just a few rides left as we head over to Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. Join Buzz and Star Command as they seek to stop the evil Emperor Zurg. This is a video game style ride that gives you a blaster and lets you earn points. Unlike Disney World, our targets have different shapes. Circles are worth 100 points, while triangles are worth 10,000. Targets are worth more when they're lit. There's also a special secret target in the center of Zurg's chest plate that, when hit, is worth 50,000 points. This is a slow-moving dark ride and has no height requirement. Right across from Buzz is Star Tours. This is a motion simulator that relies heavily on 3D glasses and a screen. It often makes my wife motion sick, so riders beware. Star Tours has a height requirement of 40 inches. It has 3 distinct sequences and what plays is randomly selected, so every ride through is a little different. There are scenes from all different eras of Star Wars, though it mostly caters to the prequels and sequels. My favorite part of the ride is that at the beginning, someone is selected as the Rebel Spy, though I've still never managed to be chosen. To increase your chances, don't put on your flight glasses until instructed to do so, and make sure your face is clear and looking forward. And our final ride at Disneyland is Astro Orbiter. This is a space version of Dumbo. Nothing more, nothing less. Surprisingly, it has no height requirement because, unlike Dumbo, I personally feel like it goes higher and spins faster. Part of that is due to the angle of the ride. Where Dumbo stays level, Astro Orbiter tilts you at an angle, applying more G-forces as it spins. There's enough room in the ride vehicle for up to 3 people, and it can actually be quite challenging to control it by yourself given how far away the lever is. Hop aboard and go for a spin high above Disneyland. And that's it for our time here today at Disneyland, giving you our ultimate ride guide for 2025. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. If you got questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer them. Click this playlist to check out my 2025 planning guides for more awesome content. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again next time.